So, hello class, good afternoon. Here comes your mom Laila again. Another day, another video, another lesson. At dahil hindi na naman tayo magkikita-kita o nagkikita-kita dahil kay Christine, now let's have our video lesson. But, I am so sorry kung hindi nyo makikita ang inyong idol for today's video. Kasi ang malupit nating o ang pangmalupitan nating ring light ay nawawala. Hindi ko siya matagpuan. Hindi ko malaman kung saan siya napunta. Kaya naman, ipagpaumanhin ninyo kung wala kayong inspirasyon ngayong araw. Tsa! Okay, so, let's start the lesson. Our first lesson after the pre-quarter examination. And that is, go forth and multiply. The perpetuation of life. Ano kaya yung perpetuation? Perpetuation. What is perpetuation? For our learning objectives, first, you have to identify the different types of reproduction. O ano kaya yung iba't ibang types ng reproduction? I believe meron na kayong overview or meron na kayong background kung ano yung types ng reproduction. Next, describe the process of genetic engineering. Ano kaya yung genetic engineering? Ano kaya nangyayari doon? And last, evaluate the benefits and risks of using genetically modified organisms. Ano-ano kaya yung mga genetically modified organism o yung mga GMO na na-encounter mo everyday? Like sa pagkain mo or yung pang-araw-araw na buhay mo. Okay? So, ano kaya yung mga benefits nila sa'yo? And syempre, ano yung risk ng paggamit mo ng GMO? So, when we say reproduction, again, it is the process by which an organism produces its own kind to ensure that its breed lives on. Ibig sabihin, when we say reproduction, sabi ko nga, it is the multiplication of the same organism through the division of the cell. So, when we say reproduction, meaning you are multiplying. You are producing another organism that is the same as you. Although, hindi siya totally the same, you still have your differences, you still have the variation, but still, they are your offsprings if you are going to reproduce. Okay? If an organism of a certain kind do not reproduce, kung hindi siya magre-reproduce, their breed will eventually become extinct. Just like what I've said, kung hindi ka na mag-aasawa, kung hindi ka na mag-aanak at ikaw na lang ang tao sa mundo, then kapag namatay ka, o kapag namatay na lang yung natitirang tao sa mundo, then extincted na siya. Okay? Wala na pong susunod na generation ng humans o ng kahit na anong type of animals or type of living organism kung hindi siya magre-reproduce. Okay? So now, let's move on to the sexual reproduction in plants. As we all know, we have two types of reproduction. The first type is the sexual reproduction, and the second type is the asexual reproduction. When we say sexual reproduction, this means that this is the process by which the plants or the animals takes in gametes or using gametes to reproduce. When we say gametes, these are the egg cell and the sperm cells or the sex cell. So, sexual reproduction in plants takes place when the gametes or the male and female sex cells of a plant unite to form a single cell called zygote. These sex cells contain the characteristics of the parent plants. So, yung plants pala, meron din pala siyang sexual reproduction or nag-undergo din pala siya ng sexual reproduction. So, hindi lang pala humans, hindi lang pala animals, even the plants. And they also uses gametes. Meron din silang sarili nilang egg and sperm. But, hindi siya syempre egg at saka sperm na katulad ng sa atin, okay? So, yung mga plants po na nag-undergo ng sexual reproduction, ang tawag po sa kanila ay angiosperms, okay? They are the angiosperms or they are the plants that bear flowers and reproduce sexually. Their flowers may have either male or female parts only or both. Okay. So, kapag sinabi natin na angiosperms, sila yung mga nagbubulaklak ng mga halaman. At alam naman po natin na yung halaman, ang kanya pong reproductive system o ang kanyang reproductive organ, yung tinatawag po natin na flower. Okay? So, if wala po siyang flower, then that is not an angiosperm. That is not reproducing sexually. Okay? In plants, this process takes place in two ways: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So, sa mga plants po pala, hindi lang siya asexually nagre-reproduce, even sexually. Okay? So, look at these terms for the plants. Anyway, nasa plant pa lang tayo ha. Wala pa po tayo sa animals. Nag-start po tayo sa plant. Okay? So, we have 5 different terms dito. Na itong mga terms na to ay matatagpuan mo lang sa plants. Okay? Medyo hinihingal tayo, parang nagmamarathon. Hindi naman ako nagra-rap. Okay? So, kung hindi mo pa naiintindihan yung aking mga sinabing nauna, feel free to replay. Okay? Replay na lang po natin. So, ito na nga. Let's start with the first term. We have the petals. When we say petals, these are the colors of the plants. Okay, so the flower, diba, nagpapaganda sa flower ay yung kulay niya. Tama po? Yung kulay niya ang nagpapaganda sa flower. At yung kulay na yon ay makikita mo sa petals. Okay, so petals are the flower's brightly colored parts that play an important role of attracting bees, birds, butterflies, and other animals that aid in transporting pollen grains to different places as they move around. Okay, so yung petals, since maganda nga siya, or since siya yung makulay na part ni flower, meaning, siya po yung nag-a-attract doon po sa ating mga agents. When we say agents, sila yung nagdadala or sila yung dahilan kung bakit nagre-reproduce ang plants. Okay? It can be the bees, yung mga bubuyog, the birds, or the butterflies. Okay? Hindi lang yon, mga ladybugs, mga ganon. Okay? So, bakit nga ba dumidikit yung ladybugs dun sa flower? Kasi maganda siya. Okay? Kasi makulay siya. And that is the attraction. Okay? And because of those animals, nangyayari yung tinatawag natin na sexual reproduction. Bakit po? Kasi sa sexual reproduction, meron tayong tinatawag na pollen or pollen grains. Kumbaga, sa lalaki, as a human, you have your sperm cell. Yung sperm cell, dapat ma-deposit mo siya doon sa female. This time, sa plants naman po, ang meron naman po sa kanila ay pollen grains. At yung pollen grains na yon ay dapat mapunta sa female reproductive organ. Okay? Mamaya malalaman natin. Ano ba yung tawag dun sa female reproductive organ at saka dun sa male reproductive organ ng plants? Okay? Anyway, sorry na sa background kasi di ba nga bumabagyo. Ayan, may background tayong ulan. So, that is the petals. Next is the receptacle. When we say receptacle, it is a part of the plant which the flower is attached. And the sepals are the leaf-like parts that enclose and protect the flower bud before it blooms. Okay, so nakakita ka na ba ng bulaklak? Oo naman, nakakita ka na. Doon sa ilalim ng bulaklak, parang may dahon-dahon, tama? Yung color green. Nakakita ka ng gumamela. Yung pinakailalim ng bulaklak ng gumamela, merong color green. Ang tawag doon ay sepals. It protects the flower bago siya mag-bloom. Bago siya naging tunay na gumamela o bago siya bumuka, siya muna ay parang caterpillar. Ano po? Caterpillar muna siya bago siya naging butterfly. At ang bumabalot sa caterpillar na yon o ang bumabalot dito sa flower na ito ay tinatawag na sepals. Okay? While yung receptacle naman, yun naman po yung kung saan mo matatagpuan yung plants. Yung mismong, kumbaga, yung nagho-hold sa kanya. Si receptacle yung tinatawag natin na foundation of the flower. Okay? Next, the female reproductive part of a flower is called the stamen or minsan tinatawag siyang stamen, but I want it stamen. Okay? Filipino ako. Char! Okay, so stamen siya. So si stamen, siya yung male reproductive organ o yung male reproductive part ng isang plant. Okay po? So, the filament is the stalk that supports the anther where the pollen is produced. Okay, mamaya ipapakita ko sa inyo ano ba ang itsura ni filament. Ano ba ang itsura ni anther? Anther. Okay? At paano ba nangyayari ang pollination? Okay? So, after natin, of course, ng stamen, meron tayo dyan na sex cell ng plants, and that is the pollens. Pollens are tiny grains containing the sperm that is necessary for sexual reproduction is the carpel or pistil, which is made up of the stigma, style, and ovary. Ano ito? Parang may mali. Okay. So, si pollen o si pollen grain, sabi ko nga, that is the sperm cell of the plant. And that sperm cell will come from stamen. Okay? And that sperm cell or that pollen must come in contact with the pistil. Okay? Kung kanina si stamen ang male reproductive part, this time si pistil, siya naman po yung tinatawag natin na female reproductive part ng isang plant. Okay po? So, si stamen at saka si pistil ay po pwede pong magsama sa isang halaman. Okay? Kapag si stamen at si pistil ay magkasama sa isang halaman o ang isang halaman ay merong parehong reproductive system or reproductive part, meaning ang nangyayari sa kanya ay yung tinatawag natin na self-pollination. Okay? Ang nangyayari sa kanya ay yung tinatawag natin na self-pollination. Okay? Pero, once na si pistil at si stamen ay nasa magkaibang halaman, ang ibig sabihin nun, ang pollination na nangyayari sa kanila ay tinatawag natin na cross-pollination. Okay? Cross-pollination. C-R-O-S-S-P-O-L-L-I-N-A-T-I-O-N. Cross-pollination. At usually, kapag po self-pollination, kahit wala pong bees or any animals or any agents na animals, ay mangyayari po ang pollination. Ang kailangan lang po dyan ay yung tinatawag natin na wind, okay? Kasi there is a possibility na yung pollen from the stamen is tatangayin ng hangin papunta kay pistil. Pero, kapag siya po ay cross-pollination o kapag siya po ay nasa magkaibang halaman o magkaibang bulaklak, ibig pong sabihin nun, kailangan natin ng presence ng bees, ng ladybugs, ng birds, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, sila po yung magdadala ng pollen papunta po sa pistil. Maliwanag po ba? Ay, wala palang sasagot sa akin dito. Joke lang. Okay, so, si pistil, sa kanya mo matatagpuan yung tinatawag natin na stigma, style, and ovary. Okay? Again, si pistil ay tinatawag din natin na carpel. Ang other term natin ng pistil ay carpel. At siya po ang naglalaman o nagdadala ng stigma, style, at ovary. Ano po ba yung stigma? Stigma is the sticky part that catches the pollen grains coming from the stamen. Okay. If humans or female humans has their vagina that is used to catch, no, not catch, that lets the penis to enter so that it will deposit the sperm cell. This time, in plant, it has stigma. Yung pollen, para dumikit siya doon sa tinatawag natin na pistil, meron tayong stigma. This is the sticky part. Okay? And next is the style. When we say style, it is the long tube-like part that connects the stigma to the ovary. So, yung style naman po, kung si stigma, siya yung opening. Kung si stigma, nasa kanya yung sticky part. Siya yung nagka-catch ng pollen. This time, yung kinatch niya na pollen, dadaan yon sa isang mahabang tube. At yung tube na yon, ang tawag doon ay style. Ang dulo ng tube na yon, mula kay stigma, papunta kay ovary. Okay po. Syempre, alam na natin kung nasan si ovary. I mean, alam na natin kung anong meron kay ovary. Ang meron kay ovary ay yung tinatawag natin na ova, ovule, or the unfertilized egg. Again, ang laman ni ovary ay ova, OVA, ovule, same lang yan magkakaiba lang ng term, ova, or ovule, or unfertilized egg. Okay? Yung unfertilized egg cell mo, okay, na dapat ma-meet ni sperm cell. At yung sperm cell ay ang pollen grains. So, sana maliwanag po tayo. Again, kung hindi mo naintindihan, feel free to replay. Okay? So, now, ano nga po ba kasi talaga yung tinatawag natin na sexual reproduction in plants? Okay, na-explain na natin paano siya nangyayari. Na-explain natin kung paano napupunta si pollen papunta kay ovary. Kung anong nangyayari. At sinabi ko na kanina, we have the pollination. When we say pollination, it is the transfer of the pollen grains from the anther. Anther, ibig sabihin yung labasan ng stamen to the stigma o yung opening ng pistil. Okay? Uulitin ko. Yung pollen grains, siya ay nanggagaling doon sa labasan ng stamen o yung pinaka-door, kumbaga, ng stamen, which is the anther. Tapos, mapunta siya dapat doon sa tinatawag natin na stigma, which is the opening of the ovary or the pistil. Liwanag po ba? Yes po ma'am. Liwanag po. Then, we have two types. Sabi ko nga, the first type is the self-pollination. Kapag si stigma at saka si stamen at saka si pistil ay nasa isang halaman o sa isang bulaklak lang, ibig sabihin, siya ay nag-undergo ng self-pollination. Yung pollen grains ay nanggagaling lang din doon sa kanyang sariling bulaklak. Okay? Papunta doon sa kanyang ulit na sariling pistil. While, kapag sinabi natin na cross-pollination, there can be two plants involved. Okay? So, yung first plant, nasa kanya yung pollen, nasa kanya yung stamen. Yung second plant, nasa kanya naman yung pistil. Okay? Kapag self-pollination, pwede or possible na mapunta ang pollen grains sa stigma without any agents, animal agent. While, when we say cross-pollination, kailangan natin ng animal agent para mangyari ang fertilization or para mangyari ang pollination. Okay, so ngayon alam mo na kung paano nangyayari ang pollination. Ang tanong, once na makapasok si pollen grains sa loob ng ovary, ano na ang nangyayari? Okay? Doon na pumapasok yung tinatawag natin na fertilization. When we say fertilization, it is the process by which the sperm and the egg cell unite and takes place after pollination. So, si pollination pa lang, ibig niyang sabihin, siya lang yung kung paano nakakarating si pollen doon sa mismong pistil. Pero, once na si pollen ay nandun na sa ovary, nandun na mangyayari o doon na magsa-start yung tinatawag natin na fertilization. Okay? It begins when a pollen grain is attached to the stigma and germinates thereafter. A pollen tube grows through the tissues of the flower until it reaches an ovule inside the ovary. And that is fertilization. For example, in humans, you are doing the sexual intercourse, and that is the pollination. Then, once your sperm cell meets your egg cell, that is the fertilization. Okay? So, if you have question, feel free to message me. And anyway, if hindi kayo na linawan dito sa video na to, just tell me so that maulit natin siya sa ating face-to-face meeting. So, that is the sexual reproduction in plants. I hope malinaw po. So, now let's move on to the asexual reproduction in plants. Asexual. Okay. So, isa lang naman po ang asexual reproduction natin in plants. And that is the vegetative propagation. Although madami po talaga tayong ways of reproducing asexually si plants, this time we are just going to focus to the vegetative propagation. So, yun yung tinatawag natin na vegetative propagation. Kasi kapag vegetative propagation, hindi lang siya gumagamit ng roots, okay? Gumagamit din siya, pwede din siyang stem, or pwede din siyang leaves. So, sabi dito, a new plant can grow from a vegetative part taken from the parent plant. When the plant part grows, it will bear the parent plant's characteristics. Almost all plant parts can be used for vegetative propagation. If naaalala nyo, diniscuss ko sa inyo yung tinatawag natin na binary fission. Yung binary fission, yung budding, budding na lang. Yung budding, yung natatanggal yung isang parte ng katawan ng parent plant or yung parent organism, then magiging another organism siya. This time, hindi budding ang tawag sa kanya. Kapag plant ang tawag sa kanya ay vegetative propagation. Okay po. So, that is the sexual and the asexual reproduction in plants. Now, let's move on to the reproduction in the animals. So, just like plants, the animals also has or also undergoes sexual and asexual reproduction. So, animals in sexual reproduction, the male and the female gametes fuse during fertilization. The sperm cell and the egg cell fuses during fertilization. Mostly, dimorphic animals, or kapag sinabi natin dimorphic, these are the individuals of two distinct forms, a male or a female of the same species. Dimorphic, ibig sabihin, pareho silang tao, pareho silang aso, pero magkaiba sila ng kanilang sexuality. Magkaiba sila na, sexuality. Yung isa ay babae at yung isa ay lalaki. They are dimorphic. Okay? And they reproduce sexually. That is why, if you are a guy and you want another guy, and you will do the sexual intercourse with another guy, you will not be able to do the fertilization or reproduction. Okay po? Let's say, for example, the dog na the male dog with another male dog, that is not possible. Okay? Through the mitosis, the process in which a single cell divides into two identical cells, a single parent make a clone of itself in asexual reproduction. Like in plants, asexual reproduction does not require two parents. Okay, so, itong reproduction natin, kapag sexual reproduction, of course, we are doing fertilization, we are doing sexual intercourse. But, if asexual reproduction, this happens because of the cell division called mitosis. Kapag sinabi natin na mitosis, there is a single parent, isa lang yung magulang, then nagdi-divide siya into two, and that will end up to having another offspring that is identical to the parent. Okay, let's say for example, ako. Although this is not possible, okay? Kunwari lang, ako, nagmitosis ako. Ano ba yung magiging itsura ng magiging anak ko? Okay? Ang itsura ng magiging anak ko ay kamukha ko rin. Kung ano yung itsura ko, yun na yun ang itsura ng magiging anak ko. Kung ano yung sakit ko o kung ano yung characteristics na meron ako, yun ang magiging itsura niya. Maliwanag po? I hope maliwanag po sa ating lahat. Ano po? Then now, there are two types of sexual reproduction. The first one is the syngamy, and the second one is the conjugation. Ano kaya yung dalawa na yun? Kapag sinabi natin na syngamy, That is the other term for fertilization. And I believe na kabisado nyo na, alam nyo na, at master na master nyo na itong fertilization na sinasabi ko, kasi since the life science ay napag-aralan na po natin siya. Okay? And this is our third lesson na. So, ibig sabihin 3 beses ko na siyang sinasabi. Then, syngamy again is the other term for fertilization. Next, reproduction through conjugation involves organism or 2 organisms of the same species with similar appearance but different biochemical composition. Ano kaya yung ibig sabihin nun? Pareho daw silang organism or pareho daw silang uri ng species pero magkakaiba po sila ng biochemical composition. Okay. Organisms that reproduce through conjugation includes bacteria and protozoa. So, kung kanina, reproduction through fertilization, this time reproduction through conjugation, there is a division of 1 organism into 2. The sexual reproduction in animals. So, multicellular animals have primary sex organs called gonads. Okay? Ang tawag sa ating sex organs ay gonads. So, kapag male, ang gonads niya ay tinatawag na testis. Okay? Uulitin ko. Kapag male, ang gonads niya ay testis, while kapag female naman, ang gonad niya ay ovary. Okay po? If man has testes, the female has ovaries. The ovum is spherical and non-motile, which is formed in the ovary. Majority of the animals have accessory parts such as ducts, glands, and other parts that form the reproductive system. Yung ovum, yung ova, o yung egg cell ng babae, ay nanggagaling of course o pinoproduce ng ating tinatawag na ovary. At yung ovary na yon o yung iba-ibang parte ng iyong reproductive system, lahat sila ay importante. Okay po. So, lahat ng animals ay meron na ganyan. Or lahat ng uri ng animals o kauri mo. Like, as humans, hindi naman siguro po pwede na yung gonads o yung reproductive system mo ay iba dun sa reproductive system ng classmate mo. Of course, pareho kayong may testis, pareho kayong may ovary, pareho kayong may vagina, pareho kayong merong penis, pareho kayong merong prostate gland. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, pare-pareho lang kayo. Kung pareho kayong organism, magkakamukha lang kayo ng inyong reproductive system. But that doesn't mean na ang reproductive system mo ay kapareho ng reproductive system ng aso. Okay? So, organisms such as flatworms and earthworms have both female and male reproductive organ are called monoecious or hermaphrodites. Okay, so yung earthworm at saka yung flatworm o yung mga organism na merong pareho o yung mga hayop na merong parehong female and male reproductive organ, ang tawag po sa kanila ay monoecious or hermaphrodites. Kanina, sabi natin may plant na nasa kanya pareho yung pistil at saka yung stamen. Ang tawag sa kanila, nagsa-self-pollinator sila. Okay? They are self-pollinator. This time, kapag animals naman po, yung merong the same or 2 reproductive organ, that means they are monoecious. Mono means one organism only, or hermaphrodites. Okay? Some organisms have separate sexes. So, yung iba merong male, merong female, just like us. They are known as dioecious. Kanina, monoecious. Isang organism, meron 2 organ. Monoecious. But, this time, if yung organism naman po ay merong magkaibang sexes, like yung ako, I have the female, and you have the male, then we are dioecious. Liwanag po? So, dioecious includes invertebrates such as nematodes and arthropods and other vertebrates. So, sana alam niyo ibig sabihin ng invertebrates tsaka vertebrates. When we say vertebrate, ibig sabihin may mga buto. Kapag ka naman invertebrate, wala. Okay, parang bulate, ganoon. Okay, so that is the sexual reproduction in animals. The asexual reproduction in animals. So, dito meron tayong binigay na 4. Okay? Meron tayong binigay na 4. Pero halos magkakahawig lang din po silang 4. Okay? Bakit po, ma'am? Kasi po, unahin natin si binary fission. Si binary fission, usually nangyayari siya sa mga bacteria. This is the simplest process of asexual reproduction, wherein the body of an organism divides into new bodies. For example, yung isang bacteria, magdi-divide siya into 2. Tapos pareho na silang bacteria. Dalawa na yung bacteria. From being 1, naging 2. Binary fission ang tawag doon. Okay? And yung binary fission, yung DNA ng isang organism, kapag nahati siya, ay magiging equal amount lang doon sa other. Kunwari, ang DNA o ang chromosomes ng bacteria ay 2. 2 lang ha. Then, kung ngayon, isa pa lang siya, 2 yung kanyang DNA. Kapag nag-divide siya, magkakaroon tayo ng DNA duplication. Yung 2 na DNA, pareho silang merong 2 DNA. Okay? Si bacteria 1 at si bacteria 2, pareho silang may 2 DNA. Sana malinaw. Next, after ng binary fission, now let's have budding. When we say budding, in budding, outgrowths or buds develop from the parent organism. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, yung plant, kung yung plant sa budding, merong tumutubo na panibagong sanga, tapos panibagong buhay yon, I mean panibagong organism. This time, sa mga corals to usual na nangyayari. Okay? Yung budding naman po sa corals, di ba po parang sanga-sanga din po yung corals? So, kapag nagkaroon po siya ng panibagong sanga, panibagong stem, then, another living organism yon, another coral yon. Okay? Once na na-detach yung buds na yon o yung bud na yon, it will become another organism. Okay? Or it will become a new organism. Okay? Pero kung hindi naman po siya ma-detach doon sa kanyang parent organism, still another organism pa rin po siya. Kaya lang naka-attach lang siya doon sa parent niya. Okay po? Next. So, maliwanag tayo kay binary fission. Binary fission from being 1 bacteria magiging 2. Tapos may equal amount sila ng DNA o ng genetic material. Kapag budding naman, nagkakaroon ng buds yung parent organism. Nagkakaroon ng panibagong sanga yung coral. Then, 2 yung po pwedeng mangyari. Yung una, po pwedeng ma-detach. Kapag na-detach, another organism na siya. Or another separate organism. While, kapag hindi siya na-detach, ang tawag sa kanya, another attached organism. Okay? So, next is the fragmentation. When we say fragmentation, parang bulate, guys. Parang bulate. Okay. Like, di ba yung bulate kapag kahit na hiwa-hiwain mo na siya, no? Putol-putulin mo na yung katawan niya, buhay pa rin siya. Bakit buhay pa rin siya? Ba't yung iba't ibang parte ng katawan niya gumagalaw pa rin kahit na magkakahiwalay na? Kasi nga po, yun yung tinatawag natin na fragmentation. Kahit na mahati o ma-divide yung katawan ng isang organism into 2 or more parts, still those fragments will develop into a new organism. Kung yung katawan ng isang bulate ay hinati mo sa 5, then nakagawa ka ng 5 bulate. Okay? Nakagawa ka ng 5 earthworms. Okay? So, that is fragmentation. Next naman po, regeneration. Although, si regeneration naman po, hindi siya part ng reproduction. I mean, hindi siya totally reproduction kasi hindi siya nakakagawa ng panibagong organism. Okay? Instead, parang na-maintain niya yung existing organism. Ang best example nito ay yung mga butiki. Hindi ba po yung mga butiki, pag naputol yung buntot nila, they can regenerate. Okay? They can create another buntot. Okay? They can have another tail because of the term or because of the process of regeneration. Okay? Maliwanag po ba? So, those are the asexual reproduction in animals. I hope clear po tayo sa ating lesson for today's video. When we say reproduction, it is the process that supports the perpetuation of a species. When we say perpetuation, ibig sabihin the maintaining or the maintenance of different species or the diversity of species in the universe. The universe, the earth lang pala. Okay? Through it, the characteristics of a parent plant or an animal are passed on to its offspring. So, yung characteristics ng ating parent ay ipinapasa or ipinasa po nila sa atin. At tayo, kung ano man yung mga characteristics natin, mapa ito man po ay physical or emotional. Emotional ay maipapasa po natin sa ating mga magiging anak. Okay? And saan po ba natin matatagpuan yon? The nucleus of each cell contains this what we call the chromosome. So this chromosome is a long thread-like structure that is made up of DNA and a protein. So, yung chromosome na sinasabi ko, na ikaw bilang tao ay merong 46 dahil nanggaling kay mama yung 23 at kay papa yung another 23, bawat isa doon ay binubuo ng napakahabang strand ng DNA. Okay po? At doon nakalagay ang lahat ng genetic material na ibinigay ni mama at ni papa sa iyo, na ngayon ay ginagamit mo. So, meron tayong tinatawag na gene. So, yung gene, hindi siya alak. Yung gene, siya yung nasa loob ng DNA mo. Sabi ko nga, it is a long strand o double helix strand. At yung double helix strand na yon ay binubuo ng basic unit of heredity, which is the gene. Okay? Gene, G-E-N-E. Okay? For example, ito pala, a gene contains information about the traits that an organism has inherited from its parent. So, nandito sa genes mo lahat ng mga binigay sa'yo ni mama at saka ni papa. For example, if you have curly hair, one or both of your parents may have curly hair. So, kung kulot ka, pwedeng si mama, si papa, o pareho sila, ay kulot din. And you could pass it to your offspring. At pwede mo naman yung ipasa para sa panibagong henerasyon. So, when we say genetic engineering, that means that this is the modification of the genes or the modification of the traits or the characteristics of a certain organism. Genetic engineering, ibig sabihin parang kung ikaw ay pinanganak na maitim, ano ba yung gagawin sa'yo ni genetic engineering para pumuti ka? Imo-modify ka niya. Okay po? Another, sa plants naman, like dito sa Pilipinas, ano ba yung mga karaniwan nating kamatis? Hindi po ba yung maliliit yung mga karaniwan nating kamatis? Pero, look at the kamatis today. Malalaki sila, tama? Because of the genetic engineering. Kasi yung punla natin o yung mga seed na ginagamit natin ay nanggaling na sa mga GMO o yung tinatawag natin na genetically modified organisms. Okay? So, in the 1970s, scientists began developing a process through which they could manipulate or change the genetic makeup of a plant or an animal, even outside of reproduction. So, si genetic engineering, hindi lang siya basta imo-modify ka niya. Hindi lang siya basta pagagandahin ka niya. Hindi lang siya basta yung mga crops natin ay pagagandahin or mas pabibisain niya pa. Or palalakihin, ganun. Hindi lang ganun, okay? Genetic engineering could also produce another organism. And that is through the process of this, what we call the cloning. Di ba sabi ko nga, you're just going to get one body cell and one egg cell. Yung body cell na yon, tatanggalin mo lang yung kanyang nucleus. So, yung body cell na yon, yung nucleus niya, kukuhanin mo siya. Tapos, yung egg cell ng babae, i-evict mo na yung kanyang nucleus. Okay? I-evict na natin siya, as in, itatapon mo na hindi na natin siya kailangan. Ang ilalagay mo doon ay yung nucleus nung tinatawag natin na body cell na naglalaman ng 46 chromosome. Then, i-implant po ito sa loob ng isang babae, or kung hindi man ng babae, sa test tube na lang, okay? Then, makakapag-produce na siya ng another organism na kamukhang-kamukha nung may-ari nung body cell. In genetic engineering, a piece or pieces of DNA are taken from an organism and then inserted or introduced into the DNA of another organism. So, yung DNA ko, yung DNA ng isang babae. Kasi for example, ako gusto ko pong pumuti. Okay? Gusto ko pong pumuti. So, kukuha siya ng DNA sample from girl na maputi, then yung DNA sample na yun ay insert niya sa akin. Okay? I-insert niya sa aking DNA. Then, ang goal niya doon is makuha niya yung desired characteristic or yung desired trait, in which yung desired trait na yon ay ang mapaputi ako. Then, once na pumuti ako, ang tawag na sa akin ay genetically modified organism. Genetic modification has also resulted in new animal breeds that are supposedly better than their original species. One example is the salmon that has gone through genetic engineering. Okay, na minodify daw yung salmon. Because this fish produces growth hormone only at certain times of the year, scientists have altered its genetic makeup to make it capable of doubling its product. Okay, so ibig sabihin pala, yung salmon, dahil nga siya ay magaling na nagpo-produce ng growth hormones o yung nagpapalaki, ginamit siya o yung DNA niya ng mga scientists para mas madoble pa, okay, yung capability niya. Genetic modification ang tawag doon. Pero syempre, kahit nasabihin natin na meron talagang mga benefits yung tinatawag natin na genetic engineering, yung genetic modification, meron din po siyang risk. Okay? Syempre, risky siya. Lahat naman ng bagay, wala namang magandang bagay na hindi risky. Lahat naman kasi yan, risky talaga. Okay, so, the risk of genetic engineering could be food allergy. Okay, let's say for example, kumain ka ng isang pagkain na GMO, nagawa sa mga GMO products. Okay, so, there is a possibility na magkakaroon ng food allergy. Or worst, pwedeng magkaroon ng poison. Okay? Magiging poisonous yung pagkain dahil siya nga ay GMO na. Next, decreased nutritional value. Since nahinder na yung kanyang DNA, since na-edit na yung kanyang DNA o yung kanyang genes, so there is a possibility na mababawasan na yung kanyang mga nutrients. Okay? Then additives. Ano ba yung additives? Okay? Parang, oo, masarap siya, pero pero harmful siya. And last but not the least, there are long-term effects. Ibig sabihin, kapag kumain ka ng isang genetically modified organism, hindi naman lahat, although there is a possibility na yung kinain mo na yon maaapektuhan ka niya habang buhay. Like, for example, isang beses mo lang siyang kinain, but yung effect niya sa'yo for life na. Okay? That is why genetic engineering could be beneficial. At the same time, it could be risky. Okay? So, that is our lesson, or that concludes our lesson for today. So, again, let's have a short recall of the lesson. Let's start with the reproduction. When we say reproduction, this means that it is the multiplication of an organism through the division of the cell. Okay? Or the multiplication of the same organism through the division of the cell. Or this reproduction is important so that a species or a certain species or an organism won't go extinct. So we have two types of reproduction. We have the sexual and the asexual reproduction. When we say sexual, ibig sabihin it requires the gametes. It could be the female and the male gametes, the sperm and the egg. While when we say asexual reproduction, unlike the sexual, the offspring of asexual reproduction is identical to the parent. Then, it only requires one parent. Okay? Kapag asexual reproduction, ang cell division na nangyayari ay mitosis lamang. Okay? While kapag sexual reproduction, meron tayong tinatawag na genetic diversity o hindi magkakamuka o pagkakaiba-iba ng mga organism. Then, ang kanya pong cell division ay meiosis at mitosis. Okay. So, kapag plants po, kapag siya ay nag-undergo ng sexual reproduction o kapag siya ay isang flowering plant, ang tawag sa kanya ay angiosperm. Okay? Ang plant po ay nag-undergo ng process of pollination wherein the pollen will be transferred from the anther of the stamen to the stigma of the pistil, wherein stamen is the male, while pistil is the female. Okay? Then, after the pollination, there is a fertilization. Next, after ng sexual reproduction in plants, we have the asexual. The only asexual reproduction that we have discussed is the vegetative propagation, wherein you are producing or you will produce another offspring or another organism from the existing plant. Okay? Next, moving on to the reproduction in animals. It could also be sexual and sexual. So when it comes to sexual reproduction, this is what we call the syngamy or the fertilization. When we say fertilization or syngamy, this is the fusion or the union of the male and the female gametes through the process of fertilization. So, sino yung nagpa-fertilization? These are the dimorphic animals. Ibig sabihin ng dimorphic, magkaiba sila ng sexuality. Kapag sinabi natin na conjugation, meaning there is a mitosis. This is the asexual part or the asexual, or I mean the splitting process or the fission of the organism. Then, the female gonads is the ovary and the male gonads is the testis. Okay po? Kapag sinabi natin na monoecious or hermaphrodites, ibig sabihin, one single organism has two different reproductive parts. Kapag sinabi naman natin na dioecious, meaning, a single organism consists only of one reproductive part. The male is different from the female. Okay? So, when we say asexual naman po, in terms of the animals, we have four. The first one is the binary fission. Binary fission is when one animal or one organism divides into two and contains equal amount of DNA or genetic material. When we say budding, meaning there is an outgrowth or there is a bud that is bud as in BUD, that is developed from the parent organism. It could be detached or it could be attached. Then, next we have the gene. Gene contains all the information or the genetic information that you have. When we say genetic engineering, it is the modification of the genes or the DNA of a certain organism. Genetic engineering. Next, once you are a modified organism, you are now called GMO or the genetically modified organism. Okay? I hope you understand the lesson and I hope may natutunan tayo for today's video. So, short lang po ang ating lesson for today and I believe na may background na kayo dito. That is why naniniwala ako na ready na kayo para sa ating quiz next meeting. Okay? And that's it for today. I hope all of you are in the good state right now. Sana po ay safe tayong lahat. Keep safe and dry. Okay, goodbye class. So, I am now bye-bye. Okay.